Joining us now is Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, who has led efforts to pass a bipartisan border bill, which, of course, then candidate Donald Trump encouraged Republicans to kill. Your reaction to what you're seeing, more U.S. troops being sent to the border, a border crisis declared, even though migration, undocumented migration, is at its lowest numbers, changes in the immigration laws. What are you expecting?
Well, I think it's really important to understand what Republicans' motivations are here. Their motivation is not to fix the broken immigration system or even fix the border. Their motivation is to increase the amount of chaos because they use the issue of immigration both to turn Americans against each other, but also to distract Americans from what their real underlying agenda is. Right now, congressional Republicans are not working on an immigration bill. They're working on a giant tax cut for billionaires and corporations. They are constructing a bill that will cut Medicare, seniors' health care to the bone, Medicaid, health care for poor kids to the bone, in order to pad the pockets of those billionaires who need no more help. So they use this issue of immigration to try to distract us from the real agenda, to try to make us fearful of each other. And in the end, all they do is make the system work. As you pointed out, by the end of Donald Trump's term, there were more people crossing illegally at the border than at the end of Joe Biden's term. Republicans don't fix problems when it comes to immigration. They just make them.
So what about the refugees? These include, as I say, those Afghans. They had been blocked from entry after being approved. Is there any hope for getting them in? These are people who are under immediate threat because of their past connections to us, to our military, our State Department, other agencies during the war.
Well, I don't think there is any hope. I mean, Donald Trump does not believe in the refugee program. He set in motion a withdrawal from Afghanistan that left our allies there high and dry. Listen, I don't believe in going to war overseas unless it is absolutely necessary, but it was necessary in Afghanistan to destroy al-Qaeda and destroy the Taliban that harbored them. We had partners in Afghanistan. And the only way that you ever get partners in a far-off land is if those people think that they will be protected when you leave. And you're always going to leave when you start war overseas. So the next time that we get attacked by a terrorist group and we need to go into that country and take out that terrorist group, we won't find partners because Donald Trump is abandoning our Afghan partners as we speak, literally waiting in line to come to the United States. Our interpreters, security personnel who guarded us, who helped us in Afghanistan, who are being hunted as we speak by the Taliban. If those people can't come to the United States, then in the future there will be nobody that will sign up to help us protect our national security interests in the case that we have to go and fight a terrorist organization somewhere far away in the world.
Let's switch to this January 6th issue and the pardons. The federal judges who had been overseeing the January 6th cases in D.C. ripped into the president's pardon of the rioters. Judge Beryl Howell saying, quote, "No process of national reconciliation can begin when sore losers whose preferred candidate loses an election are glorified for disrupting a constitutionally mandated proceeding in Congress and doing so with impunity." I presume you agree with Judge Howell about this. That's probably not a message that is going to be as resonant as the fact that with his megaphone, the President of the United States is calling them hostages, not prisoners, and calling them heroes.
I mean, let's really talk about who he let out of prison this week, who walked out of prison. Like, I walked out of prison this week that pepper sprayed multiple officers to the point where one had a heart attack. He let out of jail this week people who were beating police officers over the head with poles. He let out of jail someone who said when he arrived in Washington that day, "There will be blood. Welcome to the revolution." These weren't tourists. These weren't people that just got accidentally pushed into the Capitol. These were people who came to Washington with the explicit purpose of beating the hell out of police officers and killing Democratic members of Congress. And so what happened this week is that political violence just got legitimized in this country. And you are going to see it again and again and again, specifically directed towards Democrats, because Donald Trump has said, if you beat up a police officer to further my political agenda, if you terrorize Democrats, I will let you off the hook. We have never, ever in the 240-year history of this country seen anything like this. Our country is fundamentally different today than it was before these pardons are issued. I'm glad these judges are speaking up, but I hope that every single one of my colleagues, Democrats and Republicans, stands up and explains what has happened here, that our lives have been put in jeopardy. Our democracy has been put in jeopardy by what Donald Trump did with 1,500 pardons, including pardons for the most vicious, the most violent, the most out of control. One of the guys he let out of prison this week, who walked out of prison on Monday, literally had to be pulled off of police officers by other rioters. He was so vicious and enraged that day. That guy got let out of jail this week, and that's inexcusable.
And let me ask you about some of these confirmations, because the Hegseth nomination, new information is coming out. Clearly, the FBI did not dig very deeply or deeply enough, whatever caused that to happen. There wasn't a second round of questioning in armed services, yet it looks like a final vote is going to be scheduled for the next couple of days.
Well, and add to that, Hegseth has refused to meet with any Democrats on the committee. I've never seen that before, where a nominee refuses to sit down and have conversations with the people who are charged with vetting his nomination. The Constitution charges us with advice and consent. And because they know that Hegseth is so fundamentally unqualified, not just because he has this history of sexual violence and public drunkenness and financial mismanagement, but also because he's never led an organization this size, and because he has often defended, most vocally, soldiers who have engaged in some pretty horrific war crimes that he's now telegraphing won't be a problem in this new Department of Defense. Pretty amazing that Hegseth won't meet with any Democrats. It shows you what they are hiding. It tells you that they know that he can't answer basic questions about his history and about his experience.